This is D, and Less Stress for Life. That's what's up. Many individuals use marijuana, and they use it for various reasons. Some individuals use it recreationally, some individuals use it medicinally, and some use it mentally. At the outset, I am going to dismiss the medical as it relates to pain management. Or maybe even, I think some individuals say that it could be used for cataracts. I'm going to remove medicinal out of the way. But as it relates to recreational and mental use, those are the ones that I'm going to address. And this is just my opinion. You have individuals who say, oh yeah, I just want to use it recreationally. I just want to just clear my head. I just want to have some fun. I just want to get stoned. And then you have individuals, as it relates to using it for mental reasons, plain and simple. You have a lot of individuals who are stressed and strained and experiencing significant mental, emotional pain. For those individuals, for both of those camps, I will tell you to tread softly. Many of you will claim that marijuana use is harmless, and you'll say it's actually helpful. After all, why would so many states legalize its use? And of course, I would say to you, just because it's been legalized doesn't mean that it's safe. In fact, I think that many legislators in Colorado would probably want to rethink their vote to legalize marijuana. Why would I say that? Well, there was a report that came out not too long ago. In fact, it was in July of this past year, or this year, and it was from the Denver Post. And it talked about the crime rate in Colorado. It says that the crime rate has actually spiked. The homicides have increased, the car thefts have increased, the assaults, the robberies, and even the rapes have increased. And I'm going to talk about the rapes in a little bit. And by the way, the title of the article is Crime Rate in Colorado Increases Much Faster Than Rest of the Country. It seems that it's all fun and games till somebody catches a charge. And to me, that's pretty scary. But it really is harmless. That's what individuals will say. I want you to remember this story. True story. There are three people. I'm just going to call them A, B, and C. A was debating with B and C about the baleful effects of alcohol use. B realized that they were not going to win the argument with A. B said, well, marijuana ain't hurt nobody. And all of a sudden, you saw C sober up so quickly. And he looked at B and said, somebody high on marijuana crashed his car into my two cousins, and my aunt, and killed them. Conversation was over at that point, because it's all fun and games till someone gets into a crash. And to me, that's pretty scary. I know many opponents of marijuana would say that marijuana causes paranoid schizophrenia. I'll say this. It is true that marijuana use can cause hallucinations, it can cause delusions, it can cause poor problem-solving abilities, it could cause impaired memory, and it can also cause mood alterations. Just think about it. A person whose state is usually cool, calm, and collected can have a state that's chaotic, conflicted, and confrontational. You have to, and this should not be a surprise, simply because it's hard enough to make a logical decision with all your faculties. How about with mind-altering substances put into play? You know that can't help but affect the mental processes. And not only affect the mental processes, but affect the mental processes for several hours. Is there a reason that you have individuals who have actually committed suicide, jumping off of buildings or doing something destructive in their use of marijuana? Yeah, it ain't all fun and games like individuals would like you to believe. But delusions and mood alterations from marijuana don't necessarily cause paranoid schizophrenia. What's interesting to note is that there's another effect from marijuana, and that is brain changes. They don't talk about this too much, but marijuana use can actually alter your brain functioning. And I'm talking about it, I'm talking about for the long term. And the younger you are when you start, the more permanent the influence on the brain it's going to be. And sadly, you're talking about lower IQ for a lot of individuals. But let's go back to that paranoid schizophrenia and marijuana. The opponents of marijuana are right about the use and schizophrenia ish. The reason I say ish is because it's much more complicated. You have to take into consideration a few factors. One factor you have to take a look into is family history. You probably have an uncle. Maybe he's quiet. Maybe he's reserved. Maybe you have a grandpa who's real grumpy. Or maybe you have a very outgoing aunt. All these relatives may have either a documented or an undocumented mental health condition. And then you put on that the stressors of life. Whether you're talking about depression, whether you're talking about anxiety, those things cause an alteration in brain functioning. Family history, there's an alteration of brain functioning. The stressors of life that you're under, there's an alteration of brain functioning. And then you put on top of that marijuana use. And what do you have? The very perfect ingredients for paranoid schizophrenia. If you want to combine peanut butter and chocolate, that ain't that big a deal. But to use marijuana, which already puts you out of your head, to use that to manage situations that have you out of your head is neither safe nor sane. In fact, my brother, in fact, my sister, it's downright scary. And since we're talking about scary, let's talk about something that's scary crazy. And that is the gift that marijuana gives. What is that gift that it gives? It is the gift of deeper addiction. Some of the research that I'm talking about, you can actually go to the description link and find those articles or find links to the articles. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, marijuana is a gateway drug. Along with alcohol and tobacco, individuals that are chasing the highs to escape the lows of life find themselves running to even more harmful and even more addicting poisons, thus destroying their bodies, their brains, and their brilliance. The beauty of life is snuffed away. And one final depth to which marijuana can take a person. Very beautiful young lady was hanging out with individuals and some friends and I realized that these individuals with whom she was hanging out probably did not mean her any good. But she continued to say, I can hang out with who I want to hang out with, and I can do with them whatever I want, and I'll be just fine. One day, a couple of girlfriends invited her over along with a couple of guys. Those 4 individuals, after they had her stoned out of her head, proceeded to have their way with her. But there's no harm in marijuana. It's what they say. I'm concluding by encouraging you to look at what you consider to be fun and games. If the outcomes, whether legalized or otherwise, might produce scary outcomes on your mental, physical, or spiritual state, whether you're talking about long term or short term, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to those around yourself to change so that you can truly reach your ultimate high. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Additionally, go to www.destressmethod.com for more resource information. That's all we got for you for right now. This is D, and Less Stress for Life. That's what's up. Peace.